Hello and welcome to the debate. We are talking about the redevelopment of Old Trafford and what exactly that means. We've got lots of people to talk about that, including somebody that was very closely across everything that was going on when it was all announced. Excited by this, Wes?
Yeah, I think first of all, I'm pretty old school. Obviously, been playing here all my Man United career, knowing the history of the place. You don't really know what to think of it at first, and I think it was more when I've travelled around the world and seen some of the best stadiums, and I feel like we are missing out a little bit. And so obviously to get that sort of level, we would have to redevelop. It's as simple as that. I mean, there's a lot of sentimental stuff here and all the history. You know, it means a lot to the fans, but I also think a newer project on that sort of scale. It'll just blow your mind, really.
Important to point out that when we say redevelopment, we mean brand new stadium, don't we? And looking at the plans and stuff that have come out, it looks well exciting.
Listen, it's unbelievable. I was, when the news came out, are we going to stay here or are we going to move? I was firmly in need to stay here and redevelop, as Wes said, because of the history here. But when you see the plans and that got revealed last week, I've been to Tottenham's new stadium, and you just think, wow, it will be the best stadium in the world. To have 100,000 Man United fans as well. Listen, and obviously just from a financial point of view, it's going to be great for the club in the long term. But I think to have one of the best stadiums for the best club in the world, I think for me it looks amazing.
These two have already sort of touched on it, Harry, and I think one of the big things is going to be how to move into a brand new stadium without losing some of the history that goes with this famous old stadium.
Yeah, I think that, and so I went down to the event on Tuesday, and I think the thing I really wanted to find out was how do you do that? Because I've been to Spurs as well as an away fan, and it's a great experience, but to me, when I was walking up Seven Sisters Road, I didn't immediately think that's definitely Tottenham. It's an amazing ground, and I feel a bit similar with Arsenal, who did their development 20 years before, and a few other stadiums. And so when I went on Tuesday, I wanted to know, how do you get the rawness of that into a new ground? How do you retain that history, and how do you make sure it feels United but also Manchester as well?
Are we talking about a stadium on the level of Arsenal and Tottenham, or are we talking about a stadium on the level of SoFi, which you'll have been to out in the States? It's bigger. It feels like it's going to be bigger than that.
Yeah, I feel you're talking the SoFi, but bigger. Simple as that. And I've not seen the details to what you've seen it, Harry, but I mean, I just seen what came out over the social over the weekends. I think one of the biggest thing is, as a fan and coming from Manchester, is where's the statues going?
Yeah.
You know, this is all part of the history. You know, they're already here. They're there for a reason. You've obviously got the Munich tunnel as well. You know, can that be put in there somewhere, or something similar? I mean, I think these are all the questions, not just myself, but a lot of fans ask as well. And I hope, you know, we decide to put everything that should be there back in there as well, to keep a bit of that, you know, that feeling.
I think just to touch on that as well, it's all about moments, special nights. It's going to take time, you know, because if all of you go back over the years that Wes played, God knows how many years here, even me coming as a kid, and Real Madrid came here that day, Ronaldo got clapped off, I know that was away, but you know them things you remember as a kid. And I think if you look at Tottenham, what nights have they really had? Arsenal moving to the Emirates, they haven't had the moments, and I think getting the club back to where it should be, and the fans and the new generation, the older generation, having Champions League nights, etc. I think that's when it'll come, when the lads are scoring in, as now we call the Stretford end.
I think it's absolutely huge. I think you're absolutely right. And those tiny details are going to be really, really important. I know, for example, they've already mentioned, haven't they, that the Trinity statue would be included. That's going to be at the top of the walkway into the stadium and stuff. That's all sort of already included in the plans, Harry.
Yeah, so it's worth saying, and I don't think this was immediately clear if you were a fan on social media, but the designs they were putting out there is their kind of the way they described it was, this is what's possible. This is the art of the possible. So we can have an 100,000 seat stadium with 200 metre trident on the top of it, and this umbrella that collects rainwater and solar and all of that, and we can have this amazing pitch and a Stretford End with 25,000 seats. None of it is firmly decided, and there's fan consultation and community consultation, but also those finer details, which I think all of us as fans want to know. Where's the Trinity statue, the Sir Alex, Sir Matt statues, the new Jimmy Murphy statue? Where will the Munich clock go? What will happen to the pitch? And that's what I got to speak to one of the architects called Patrick, and those were the details I found most interesting, because I think a lot of the headline stuff, like the trident and the size of the stadium, that's interesting to everyone in the world. But as United fans, it's those little bits. So one of the things I loved is I was in a focus group when they were doing the research for how the design should look. And they said, what is it about Old Trafford that makes it unique and that makes it feel like United? And we thought for a while, and there's like the red seats obviously is at a really basic level, but also the flags that hang around the ground. If you go to other stadiums, a lot of the time they're like printed. So Arsenal's are printed along the concourses. Ours are actually flags. So there's like, when you look out Old Trafford, you can feel the ground. And so they were saying, all right, we'll definitely make sure there's fan flags in it. And then they're talking about how you keep the concourses feeling like they are now after a big win. After Real Sociedad last Thursday, we were going down the stairs, you're banging on the sides, and there's that sound of Old Trafford after a win, which is the kind of smashing of the concourses. And they said, all right, that's great to know. And they'll make the concourses made of brick and steel so that it feels like United and Manchester rather than glass and corporate-y.
They're the tiny little details that I think everybody is really interested in. And for me, it's silly things like, will the tunnel still be an extendable tunnel? And will it only have one tunnel, or will there be like a fake second tunnel? Like, it's all of those little things, isn't there?
There are some mad tunnels in the world. Yeah. I was in Buenos Aires once, and Argentinos Juniors, who's Maradona's first team, have a tunnel which is Maradona's mouth. It's an inflatable Diego Maradona, and they walk out of his mouth.
I think like Eric Cantona's face might be a bit much for a new tunnel entrance. All right, big question. What do we call it?
Old Trafford.
It won't be that though.
Well, that's right. Okay, so you've just hit on the crux of the situation. Can you call a new stadium Old Trafford?
Yeah, of course you
can. But then,
but it wouldn't be.
But like,
I know, yeah.
But a new camp, yeah. I know it's a new stadium, but it's a Spotify new camp, yeah.
Yeah.
Now we know about the finances and stuff, so can't it still be called something Old Trafford? Because the fans will still call it Old Trafford, but it'll just have that name before it.
The cricket ground just down the road here is done exactly that. They became Emirates Old Trafford when Emirates came along and sponsored them.
It's an interesting one. I feel 10 years ago, if you suggested that, people would have said, no chance. I'd hate that to happen. And I think as fans, the stance has probably softened quite a lot. And the point that Danny's making, if we would still call it Old Trafford, if the world's media has to call it something slightly different, and that generates enough money to fund the winning team, then fair enough.
How far down that track can you go? Could you have the something arena at Old Trafford? Could you have, or does it have to?
I think you keep Old Trafford in there. Yes, you might get a big sponsor to sponsor the stadium, but like I said, I can't see us moving and not still having where you playing. Is it home? Is it Old Trafford today, or is it? I just couldn't see it being it. Is it at this stadium? You'd have to have Old Trafford.
It comes back to the kind of the central point of are you happy with a new build stadium? And as a fan, yes, if the values of the club and what makes it feel like home are kept, and one of those things is the name and being able to call it Old Trafford. If you're throwing a sponsor name in front of that, fine. But if you're calling it something completely different, then
that's not good.
Yeah.
New Trafford.
Well, no, I wasn't. I mean, I think that's the joke that's going around on social media, isn't it? That's exactly what people are saying. I was just wondering whether there might be scope for, a bit of a move away to something different. But I feel like everybody around the table is very much in agreement.
There was one debate, which is, do you keep the stands the same? no, I think you do. So you have the Stretford end and some Sir Bobby Charlton and Sir Alex Ferguson stand. But if you had the opportunity to call a fourth stand something different, what would it be?
That's a tough one.
Could it be the Wes Brown Memorial Stand? Is that what
Definitely
it is?
not.
Memorial.
I mean, there could be a couple of ex-players in there. If you really wanted to go out there.
So Matt's an
class of 92
obvious
stand.
one, I think.
Yeah.
Fergie's fledglings.
Yeah.
You could
I'd
throw
go
it out
Sir
there.
Matt Busby stand, and to round off with your three knights of United. So you have Sir Bobby, Sir Matt and Sir Alex.
It's almost like you've given this some real
Yeah.
thought, Harry.
It's almost like I'm a United history nerd.
Is the atmosphere the big thing here? You mentioned it right the way at the start of the conversation, how transferring the Old Trafford roar that you get into a new stadium. Has that got to be front and centre of any designs that are finalised to be able to keep that inside whatever they decide to build?
Were they talking about scientifically that's how they're trying to build it? Like a bowl sort of. So you get their full.
Again, I wanted to know: was that a priority? And it sounds like it was through the whole design process. There's a couple of specialists they were talking about, and exactly how they work, I still don't know. But there's seating, so how close people are, how steep the stands are, how close you are to the pitch, and then there's acoustics. So how does the roof not just reflect the noise back in, because then it would drive you mad if everything was getting reflected. How do you reflect the right bit of noise to the right bit of the stand, so that the lads singing at the back of the Stretford end, what they're singing can be heard by the lads at the front of the Stretford end, and that's where the scientists come in.
That's why they get paid the big bucks,
Yes.
and we're here talking about it, Simo. What is it about the atmosphere here that makes it so special, Old Trafford? Like, immediate example that comes to mind is that second half against Arsenal in the 1-1 draw earlier this season, where all of a sudden some switch was flicked. I think it might have been a Matthias de Ligt tackle that goes in, and all of a sudden the place it's like somebody lit a fuse, and it was incredible, Simo.
Yeah, and I think you just answered the question. It's like when the players, light a fuse, and we have their moments, because that's what we've seen over the years. Sometimes you need a player or the team on the pitch to light that, because our fans will absolutely love it. They want to see that tackle, that block. They want to see that from the passion from the boys, and then it just transfers straight into the fans, because we're all working class people, and that's what they want to see. The lads working hard. So I think then when that happens and the boys start singing, the fans, it's just everyone just joins in, and you can feel it as players.
When you hear Old Trafford get like that, and it might be a tackle, it might be a goal, it might have been just winning a throw-in or a corner, and all of a sudden you hear Old Trafford just start to ramp up the noise levels. What's that like when you're on the
you
pitch?
play much better. I tell when the fans, I just say to them, you just sing, because believe me. And listen, it could be a tackle, it could be a bit of skill, it could be a cross into the box where we just miss it. But, it means the fans can see, we're behind you. Come on, keep going, lads, keep this up. And then as a player, you do that extra bit, don't you? Whether it's a sprint, whether it's you take more care on that pass, or...
It's comfort, in it, as well, I think.
Yeah, it's comfort, because listen, you appreciate the fans in the first place, but they're basically saying, this, lad, you're doing well, keep it going. Do you know what I mean? We need more of that, and that helps you push on as well.
And from an away perspective, I've come here, against Man United, and, when you're in that tunnel, you know what you're coming out to, and it's quite scary. So we need to keep that feeling as well, where the away teams come to Old Trafford, new Old Trafford, and you want that raw when you're coming out of the tunnel, and you think, we're in for a game today.
That's one of the things with a 100,000 capacity. So I was initially on the side of redevelop this place, but supposedly the limit to that capacity would be about 80, 82, 85, with a massive investment. If you're standing in a tunnel coming out to 100,000, which is the closest at the moment you get is the Camp Nou. I mean, yeah. You'd feel it.
Oh, you and I have been dead fortunate, and these guys as well, of going away in the away ends with Manchester United. And if you can channel just a little bit of the energy that comes from the Manchester United away fans and inject it into a new stadium, you're onto a winner, aren't you?
Yeah, and it's so that there are groups doing that. The Red Army who stand in the what is the reclaimed heart of the Stretford End, which was hospitality until a few years ago. That's one of the other things with the new ground. There'd been no hospitality in the Stretford End going off these first designs, which is a good step. And there's a few other groups who do that. The key ultimately is, can you stand with your mates? If you can, then you're more likely to sing together, you're more likely to enjoy the game. Can you afford to get in? Are the ticket prices affordable? Can you start coming when you're a young enough age that it becomes a habit and a way of life? Those are the things that really make a difference, and that's the same for an away end and the home end in the Stretford End. There's been lots of progress on that, I think, in the last few years at United. There's still a room to get better, and those fan groups will keep doing that, and the fan advisory board. I think the exciting thing with the new ground is that capacity is so big that can those extra 25, 27,000 tickets a game start to subsidise kids coming for even cheaper and more regularly, and you could have the front of the Stretford End could be 5,000 kids from Salford and Manchester who come in for £1, £5 a game, amazing. And suddenly that fan culture is kept going for another generation.
Yeah. Right, last word on this. How excited are we all? If you can sort of keep that to a minimum, how excited are you, Simo?
Listen, I'm actually, I told you that at first I wasn't too excited, but now I'm buzzing, especially listening to Harry now. So yeah, I'm very excited.
Wes?
Yeah, I'm getting on, so I hope it's done before I go any further. No, I'm excited. I mean, if or when it happens, it'll be the best thing that I think Manchester's seen in a long while.
Yeah, I agree. We're excited. I know we're excited.
Yeah, nervous. I love this place. Yeah. It's an amazing ground. But when I came back from London after that event and I walked up to the ground and you thought, what would this place look like with those towers and this umbrella over the ground, and what would it feel like with 100,000 inside? You start to imagine what the future could look like, and maybe that pain is worth it for 100 years of a ground like that.
Yeah, I'm sure it absolutely will be worth it. I'm very excited about the whole thing, and let's hope we can get it off the ground nice and quickly. We will see you next time on The Debate.